Okay, so there's this massive blockbuster film, Dhurandhar 2, that has absolutely taken the box office by storm. But is it really just entertainment? Today, we're diving into a viral breakdown from YouTuber Rahe, because he argues this film is something, well, something else entirely. So let's get right into it. And the analysis kicks off with a really explosive claim. See, the argument isn't just that Dhurandhar 2 is a little biased. No, the claim is that it's not actually a film at all. It's, and I'm quoting here, the most expensive election advertisement ever made for the ruling BJP party. And really, this one idea is the lens through which the entire movie gets deconstructed.
So, is that just some wild theory? Well, the source points to some pretty compelling evidence to back this up. First off, you had a chief minister who went on record saying that people who watch the film will end up voting for the BJP. And then, the party's own official social media handles started using the movie's songs in their actual campaign materials. It really makes you wonder, right? Where exactly does the film end and the political campaign begin?
Okay, so to really understand how the film allegedly pulls this off, the analysis zooms in on something we all see but probably never think twice about: the disclaimer. The argument here is that it's not just some legal thing they have to do, it's actually being used as a legal cheat code to manipulate the audience.
Yeah, you've seen this line a million times, right? Inspired by real events, but any resemblance to actual persons is purely coincidental. It's just standard stuff. But the source argues that in this particular film, that familiar disclaimer is being used to actively and intentionally deceive you.
And this is the core contradiction right here. The film literally says any resemblance is a coincidence, but then it goes on to use the Prime Minister's real name, real footage of him, and even the real names of actual gangsters. The source's point is that this can't be an accident. It's a deliberate choice designed to blur that line so you, the viewer, can't quite tell where reality ends and the fiction starts.
So, if the disclaimer is the cheat code, what are the actual plays being run in the game? Well, the analysis goes even deeper, and it starts to identify specific propaganda techniques that it claims the film is using to play with the audience's emotions. The first technique that gets called out is something called emotional priming. And the basic idea is pretty simple, actually. You induce a specific emotional state in the audience, think anger or fear, because once they're in that state, they become way more receptive to whatever message or narrative you're about to feed them. And the source argues the film does this right from the very first scene. It shows this really provocative act of sectarian violence. Now, this specific event isn't even central to the main plot of the movie, but the argument is that it doesn't have to be. Its only job is to evoke that intense anger and fear, basically priming the audience for the very nationalistic story that's about to unfold.
Here's another pretty clever technique the analysis points out. Check out this line from one of the film's villains. Now, think about that. By having the enemy say the Prime Minister is effective, the praise feels so much more genuine, so much more credible to you as an audience member than if it had just come from one of his supporters.
All right, so moving beyond these narrative tricks, the analysis then takes a sharp turn into fact-checking. It starts to look at some of the film's biggest historical claims and argues that, well, its version of events just doesn't quite line up with the public record.
So let's take this claim for example. The movie suggests that both America and Pakistan's ISI were actively trying to stop the PM from winning the 2014 election. But the source brings up some counter-evidence. For one, US President Obama was actually one of the very first world leaders to call and congratulate him on his victory. And even more surprisingly, a former ISI chief later stated on record that he actually preferred him as PM. That's a pretty direct contradiction of the film's whole narrative.
And that brings us to what the source argues is maybe the film's biggest distortion of the truth: its portrayal of the 2016 demonetization policy. The movie frames it as this brilliant masterstroke for national security. But what do the actual facts say? So the film claims that demonetization was all about stopping 60,000 crores in fake currency coming from Pakistan. But the source then pulls up data directly from the Reserve Bank of India. And that data shows two things. First, that 99.3% of all the currency was returned to the banking system. And second, only 43 crores of fake currency was even detected that year. I mean, that is a huge, huge gap between what the film claims and what the official numbers show.
And beyond just the economic data, the analysis argues that the film completely and totally ignores the human cost. It cites reports that over 80 people died as a direct result of the cash crisis. We're talking people who collapsed in long ATM queues or couldn't get cash for urgent medical treatment. This whole reality, the source says, is just completely erased from the film's heroic story.
You know, this brings up another really powerful argument that the analysis makes, that sometimes the most effective propaganda isn't about the lies you tell, it's about the truths you strategically choose to leave out.
So the source lays out a timeline of some key events that are just completely absent from the film. For example, in December 2015, the PM makes a historic, surprise visit to Pakistan. Just 8 days later, the Pathankot Air Force Base is attacked by terrorists. Then there's the Pulwama attack in 2019, which the source claims happened even though there were 11 prior intelligence warnings. The argument is that leaving these details out is absolutely crucial if you want to maintain the film's simple, clean, heroic narrative.
And all of this, it all builds to the source's final, and maybe its most serious accusation. That the film isn't just trying to rewrite history books, it's actually trying to rewrite your own personal memory of that history. The analysis uses a very powerful psychological term to describe this: gaslighting. If you haven't heard it, it's a form of manipulation where someone or something tries to make you question your own memory, your own perception of reality, even your own sanity.
So, how does that apply to a movie? Well, the argument goes like this. For events that millions of people actually lived through, like standing for hours in those chaotic queues during demonetization, the film presents a completely different reality. It's essentially telling the audience, hey, you know that thing you remember? That difficult experience you had? That wasn't the real story. The real story was the secret, heroic master plan for the nation's security.
Ultimately, the analysis really leaves the question with you, the viewer. When a film blends real people and real events with a fictional story, all while hiding behind that coincidence disclaimer, who do you trust? In an age where media is this sophisticated, how do we, as viewers, draw the line between patriotism and propaganda? And maybe the biggest question of all, how do we decide what's actually real?